Hello, everyone. Brian Zane here, and we're live, pal. How's it going? It's Friday morning, and I felt that it's another one of those times where there's some breaking news. Not so much breaking anymore. It's a little old today, but it's the first time I've talked about it, so I figure we might as well get to it. First of all, I have to say I just came back yesterday from the ROH TV tapings in Baltimore. It's the last TV tapings as we know it for the foreseeable future, and I can get into that a little bit after we talk about this, but I'm going to first talk about the big news from yesterday that broke was that WWE released a whole bunch of names, some of which you might recognize from very recent programming because that's included. And there's a lot to talk about. I'll just go through the names right now, and I'll give you my thoughts on those when we come back to it. But the names of those that have been released thus far, as of this live stream: Eva Marie, Keith Lee, Mia Yim, Karrion Kross, Scarlett, Ember Moon, Frankie Monet, Harry Smith, Nia Jax, Lindsay Dorado, Grand Metalik, Jeet Rama, Katrina Cortez, Trey Baxter, Zeta Ramir, Jesse Kamea, B-Fab, and Oni Lorcan. Those are the names that I believe are current and up to date as of this moment. I don't think I missed anyone, but there's a lot of people. It just feels like all these releases, especially we've seen a lot of releases this year. I believe the current count right now is 71 people have been released from the company this year alone. Granted, one of them came back. It was Samoa Joe. So it's technically a net loss of 70 so far is where we're at, just in released names. And they cite budget cuts, and everyone wants to go, oh, well, why are they cutting their budget when they make all this money? To be honest, you can cut your budget even though you're still making money hand over fist, which is what WWE's doing, which makes it, I think, even more messed up. I think that if you have this money, you got to invest in it and in stars, but I'll get to that. I think it just seems that it seems that all these releases from this year, especially, you're right, Zelina came back. So yeah, net loss of 16, a net loss of 69 releases. Nice. All these releases, especially this latest batch, I'll get to my notes when I get to it. It feels like some kind of systematic dismantling of what Triple H's NXT represented. If you look at some of the biggest names, the ones that he pushed the hardest, folks like Lee and Kross and Ember Moon, for example, it just feels like another large disconnect between Triple H and Vince McMahon as to who they saw as stars and what their booking philosophies are. And if that's not the biggest sign of that disconnect, this latest batch, I don't really know what is. It just sucks because so many of these folks uprooted their lives to go down to Florida and work for this company. So much is expected of them as performers, and the grind and the work you have to do to get through that performance center regimen before you get, you make your way through NXT and whatnot, developmental. Then they'll just drop them at they'll cut them at the drop of a hat to save them money. It seems it doesn't seem to matter if they have any kind of star power, however much is perceived by the people in charge or otherwise. It just seems that they're kind of line items on the balance sheet, and it just seems WWE doesn't care. I mean, they don't care they don't seem to care how much money they've already dumped into you. Take Keith Lee, for example, somebody who they've gone to the expense of making the documentary about him and making this big deal about him. They'll put the money in and then they'll take things away and they'll wonder why people can't get over and they'll cut them. That's kind of what this round. There always seems to be themes with release batches this year. I think that's the theme I get with this one. Let's talk about it. I'll go through these names again and I'll kind of give you my thoughts individually. Excuse me, to the best of my ability. Eva Marie was a name that I'm surprised but not, because it just seems like they went to this whole trouble to bring her back. After all the trouble they went to building her up to wrestle the first time when she was with the company. And she came back, all this fanfare. She just did this program with Dewdrop and then she was gone. Bye. Like, hey, if Eva Marie was just brought in solely to get Dewdrop over Piper Niven, then like, okay, I guess not all is lost. I think Dewdrop's great. I hopefully she gets a chance to do more than and just show more what she's capable of, because she's very good. So yeah, that was kind of surprising though. Keith Lee and Mia Yim. First of all, they cut a couple of couples this round. Keith Lee and Mia Yim are, of course, they're engaged. I mean, Bearcat Lee. What can you even say about that one? It's frustrating, because if you just look at how he was received at Survivor Series 2019 and at the Royal Rumble the following year before the pandemic started, like, how could you look at that what is clearly money on the table and go, no, we're good, thanks, don't move along? It's wild to me. And like, there's so many examples of how they just kind of cut him off at the knees in a lot of ways. And let's not forget, this is a man who almost died and like almost couldn't come back to wrestling, it seemed, but he worked his ass off for the company. They put him in a singlet, they call him Bearcat, and then they cut him. It makes no sense to me how you could look at a character like Keith Lee, his size and his personality and everything he's got going on for it, and just go like, no, it doesn't matter. Is it like, here's the thing, some of these, the ones that are the most shocking to me, like, either it makes no sense, because I think, okay, the ones that are truly shocking, it can't just be that they didn't care about them or saw them as, just numbers on a balance sheet. It had to have been, okay, this person must have asked for their release. Kind of like, who was that? I believe it was Grand Metalik. It was noted that he asked for his release, according to Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful, who was breaking this stuff yesterday. So maybe they asked for their releases and it's just not public yet. Or, excuse me, sorry about that. It's one of those things where I was trying to look what the other one was. What was my point I was trying to make with this? They're either asked for their release, or they're one of the handful of people like Nia Jax who allegedly was released because they were not vaccinated. That's something about her story that I think is kind of interesting that's come out, because there are rumors that a handful of people, like 4 or so, got released because they weren't vaccinated. But at this point, Nia is the only one who has been named of those 4. I think that's hilarious that for some reason, like, she's the one who's gotten sold out. She has always been a lightning rod of controversy just for years because of her recurring bouts with recklessness in the ring and her objectively like scary times with the way she kind of throws around opponents and risks hurting them. So it's funny. One of the last things we saw her do on TV before she was cut was getting into that whole debacle with Charlotte Flair on Raw. And it's crazy to think how much that moment spawned this whole other spider web of storylines and plot points for sure. But no, going back to Keith Lee and Mia Yim, it's just really shocking. You hate to see them like cut an entire couple just before the holidays and whatnot. Mia Yim it's sad because like she had a lot of momentum in NXT, and then Retribution happened. Retribution. God, it's been a long time since I busted that one out. So they part of Retribution, and then nothing happened with her either. She was just gone, and I believe she was sick with COVID too, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot of bad luck with that couple. I feel really bad. The Bearcat thing, like when he was when Keith Lee was first given the Bearcat nickname, I wasn't against it because okay, there's a historical link to that name, Bearcat Wright, very famous African American wrestler from long ago. So he's carrying on that name. I kind of like that idea if they did something with it, if they kind of promoted it in such a way, but they didn't. They took away everything that was cool about him. And speaking of that element, Karrion Kross and Scarlett, how do you mess these two up? Like, I think their entrance the first time I saw it was a little outrageous in NXT, but it's like, you know what? That could get over. When you put that in front of a larger crowd, that could be amazing. So it was a great presence. I think Kross is a great worker, and I think that style he had was very good. I think if Kross hadn't gotten injured when he won the NXT title the first time, we'd all be singing a very different tune about Karrion Kross at this point, because his career, his trajectory as champion might have turned out a whole lot better. It's worth noting that, they knocked Keith Lee down a peg because he had beat Adam Cole to unify or to have both the North American and the NXT titles. Keith Lee relinquishes the North American title, immediately loses the other championship to Karrion Kross, who then gets hurt. So now you've made two people look really lame. And that, I think, was a real blow to NXT's momentum. Just with that, because Keith Lee, you could tell he had one foot out the door of NXT and on his way to the main roster, which is a whole other thing. So yeah, really bad timing for his injury. Then when he finally gets the belt back, then they take Scarlett away from his presentation. And honestly, that was a huge component of his character. And you can say, well, it doesn't say much about him if like they take his wife away from the equation and he can't match up to it. But I mean, when they've been booked in such a way that they are kind of necessary to be together, then that's what happens. And it's kind of a sink or swim thing. And I think that was kind of tough. So then they put him on TV, on like main roster TV as NXT champion. They build him as such. He walked out with the belt. He loses a match clean to Jeff Hardy. And so, yay, go watch NXT to see more losers like Karrion Kross. Please watch us instead of AEW. And so it was, that I think was another just kind of really blow to NXT, a blow to Karrion's presentation. Then when he got back to NXT, he was made to look like a real dum-dum on that show. Everyone punked him out. Adam Cole eviscerated him on the microphone, and Karrion never recovered. And so then Karrion lost the belt to Samoa Joe, who has since vanished off the face of the earth after winning it for 2 weeks. Then they turned Kross into a gladiator, then a guy in a suit, and now he's gone. Like, no shit, these guys can't get over if you take away everything that got them over. I'm just saying. Take a small break here to bring up the super chats that we've been receiving. I think I missed a couple of them, so I can't pull them up here. But Zachary Solano writes, only releases I'm happy about are Nia and Eva Marie. Let's be honest. We shouldn't be happy about any of these people being cut, because these are people who, like I said, they uprooted their lives and they came here, and in some cases they had spent many years here, or in some cases not even that much time at all. And it sucks either way. And I mean, depending on the situation, it can be a great liberation or not. But at the same time, these people are out of work, and now they need to like get the hustle back, and they need to find something else to feed themselves with. And so let's not celebrate this, is what I'm saying. I want to make that very clear. But thank you very much, though, for your contribution, Zachary. Jacob Plunder, with several Deutsch marks. I feel like you need a tip for having to yet again report on this shit. Best on where Ember Moon lands. She is my favorite of the ones released. I appreciate that, Jacob. Yeah, a lot of sad news in wrestling this week, and we will get to more of that, like I said, as the stream goes on. Where Ember Moon could land? I mean, really anywhere. I mean, I think all the different companies that are out there could always use more competent lady wrestlers, and I think Ember Moon's great. She's a real great example of somebody who you could really see grow and thrive in that system, because when she started out as Ember Moon, very different presentation, very different character, very awkward on the microphone. And then, as the years have gone by, in her most recent presentation, I think she's great, and she's just really unique and has a great presence. So I don't think she's going to be short for gigs anytime soon. She'll find a way to bounce back very easily. Let's see here. Then there was one from Christopher Gabbianelli. It's all just content to them now. WWE has an image, and if you don't fill it, you don't stay. That's a good point. I think WWE is so focused on the brand getting over instead of like particular stars. It's not like the day where it's like Hulk Hogan is the big flagship guy, or The Rock, or Austin, or whatever. Even Roman Reigns isn't that. Today, even though he's treated as such, like on SmackDown, the reality is he is just one of a cluster of stars that are under the broader umbrella of WWE, and that's what they promote. And I think that's a big problem philosophically with the company, which is its whole other video. Quote the Raven, $4.99. What sucks is being on main a handful of times and fired, and now you're in a 90-day no compete. Ridiculous for Mia Yim, Kross, and especially BFAB. I'll get to BFAB in a second. Mr. Frontman with 2,500 clippy cloppies. Why? I'm sorry, I don't know what that. That's what I meant to do. Where'd it go? Where did it go? Oh, I went back up too far. Oh, shit. What happened? Here we go. Mr. Frontman. Why did WWE sign Harry Smith to release him and never use him? What is the logic? Hey, you know what? Marty Jannetty, happened to him a few times too. Just guys who will be brought in and they do nothing with. But that was weird because Harry Smith being part of like the first dart match in the first live show back this year was one of the bigger stories of that weekend. And then he's just like not there. So that was very weird. Well, I missed. Shoot, it moved. Alton Worcester, who do you think would be best for AEW? I mean, really, it's kind of like how I felt with the ROH stuff last week, where I don't really feel like speculating who's going to go where that much. I just think that everyone here in this list is good to great and would be fine. It would be do well for themselves anywhere. I don't like playing fantasy bookers so much, so I can't really tell you, like, if I had to pick one person, like if AEW in this hypothetical got one person, could only get one person from this batch, probably Keith Lee. That's the star. That's the star, I think. And I think that WWE made a big mistake in letting him go for sure. Was Ember Moon's gone. Frankie Monet was a bit of a shocker as well. That didn't last very long. She was a big presence on NXT for several months, and she was doing this thing with Robert Stone and Jesse Kamea and Aaliyah, and now that's just all kind of gone. Really disappointing. Harry Smith, talked about him. Nia Jax, talked about her. Lindsay Dorado and Grand Metalik have both been released, and Grand Metalik apparently asked for his, and so no more Lucha House Party in any incarnation. Like, they were never really given a chance to show the most of what they could do. Like, beyond 205 Live, they didn't get much of a platform beyond that. So it's unfortunate. Excuse me. I did like all the custom gimmicks that came out in. Like, I forget who it was. I think it was Lindsay who had the Power Rangers, the Megazord themed one. That was I popped for that. Let's see here. Oh, Mr. Frontman. This is their Chilean currency. Country of Katrina Cortez, who, yeah, that was not a huge surprise that she got cut, but it was just interesting because she was on TV a couple of times and she was like seeing Kara's partner for a little bit, and that didn't really that stopped. So a couple matches on main event, and that was pretty much it. I liked seeing a female luchador presence. We see plenty of male masked wrestlers, but I think having a masked lady wrestler is kind of novel, or it's different. So it's too bad she never seemed to stick around. Trey Baxter, who, God, why can't I remember his real working name now? I have to look it up. Hang on, GCW just advertised him, so now I got to look him up. And don't tell me. It was Blake Christian. Thank you. The former Blake, now he's Blake Christian again. Trey Baxter been released. It's so weird because he was very recently on TV, like with his girlfriend Cora Jade, who still is in the company as of right now. That was very interesting. They kind of put them together, and he gone. Zeta Ramir, Jesse Kamea, a couple of promising ladies. Zeta, I think she was one of the Booker T students. So yeah, it was cool to see her get that moment. And so, but of course, yeah, now she is gone from there. BFAB is, I think, a very shocking one to me. Like, it's bad enough that the main roster, they plucked NXT's hottest act in Hit Row, and like, undoubtedly, I feel they would have been like, if they weren't drafted, I feel they would have been the centerpiece to this new NXT 2.0. Like, the hip hop aesthetic seems specifically catered to them. Like, and then they're gone. And then you move them to SmackDown. BFAB just signed a new deal, apparently, like last week. She's also the voice on the freaking Hit Row theme. When you hear Hit Row, that's her. And now she's gone. You're going to cut her? Like I said, unless she asked for her release or was one of the unvaccinated ones, I do not understand this, because that was part of the package. Like, I don't know. You can say whether or not about her her ability in the ring. Like we didn't get to see too many opportunities of that. But again, that's something that can get better over time. And I don't think that like somebody's abilities now is, you know, an indictment on them to say they can't grow or develop. Like we'd seen long-term things like, you know, it was hard to give Nia Jax a benefit of the doubt anymore after her, you know, 5th or 6th, you know, blunder in the ring. So it's really too bad. And then we got Oni Lorcan's a name I want to talk about too. I liked his character. I liked his very scrappy fighting gimmick. I thought he was very good in that role. He had a very nice, gracious video message he posted yesterday on social media. Seems very positive about everything, which is very nice. So good for him. And I just hope that all these wrestlers, like what a shitty week it's been for the wrestling business, for people in the wrestling business in particular, you know. So many releases, so many injuries, and in some cases, both simultaneously. I hope that everyone stays strong and that everyone can recover. I feel confident that everyone will be able to find the work if they choose to pursue it, if they want to continue doing wrestling after this. You know, this is not the end of anyone's careers, I think everyone's going to be just fine. And whether it's getting signed somewhere else or thriving on the indies or who knows. I think Danhausen's in a position where he never, you know, speaking of people who are out of a job soon and or injured, who just had surgery today. So get well soon, Danhausen. But you know what? He doesn't ever have to wrestle for the rest of the year. He can just, you know, roll out in his wheelchair and go, hello, this is Danhausen. And everyone's going crazy because everyone loves to see Danhausen and they'll continue to throw money. Don't worry, Danhausen. I think you'll be just fine. And so will so many of the other wrestlers who have been released this week in WWE and Ring of Honor, what have you. You know, I hope that they find a path in their wrestling careers that can fulfill them. Let's get a couple more of these super chats, pull them up. I've been missing Mr. Frontman. Here we go. Michael True says, I can't help but feel they're getting ready to sell the company. Yeah, again, you know, that rumor started popping up when these first began, like all these releases. The first couple of waves were like, what's going on? And then Nick Khan's interview earlier this year, he famously said, you know, it's like, we're always open to listening to deals and offers or whatever, but like, you know, stay pretty mum on the topic. So maybe it is, you know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but they have all these wrestlers that they have, you know, for one reason or another, stockpiled forever and ever. And now that they're sloughing them off, it's just, you hope it never had to come to that. But that's how it is. And that's because they're just trying to save money. And maybe they just want maximum profits for themselves and not to sell. But who knows? I hope that, I mean, we'll see what the case is with that, but it's unfortunate. Dan Lemley, if they start releasing people who are not vaccinated, do you think they'll release big names like Sasha, who is reportedly anti-vax? Yeah, I mean, if that's their policy, I think it's within the company's right to tell people to have a mandate or to mandate vaccines. Is within their rights to do it. And honestly, I think if you're a professional wrestler, you should get vaccinated, because I'm going to steal a line from my friend Ethan HD, where he said, 2 of the first lessons you learn in wrestling are to protect yourself and protect others. And so a vaccine seems to do that pretty well. So who knows the final tally or number of people who have been released because of their vaccination status, the people who will be released, hard to say. But I mean, that could set an interesting precedent, because if these folks are getting released and if Sasha is not vaccinated, which we don't know, I think, whether or not either way, then, you know, we've seen that this year that nobody is safe. Let's just put it that way. Badass Ant, 2 British pens, shocked NXT UK star survive another talent cut. Like, at this point, they really should just let it go. And just like, can you just try get them to breathe life back in the UK scene again? Just try. I don't know. It's crazy to think of, like, I remember 15 or so years ago, maybe 12 years ago. I remember hearing stories about how WWE wanted to do like kind of what they were starting to do with NXT and NXT UK, and how they wanted to do one in India, I believe, and they wanted to do one in Japan, and they wanted to do one in Canada, probably, and Mexico. And that was something I remember them planning to do. They wanted to do this whole world domination thing, or like have different like branches of WWE in different parts of the world. And at the time, I thought, oh, that sounds bullshit. That's never going to happen. And then like once you started seeing them do what they were doing with NXT, you kind of thought, oh, maybe this is it. And then like whatever happened between, you know, the concept and the execution, it just feels like they came to an impasse. They thought maybe it wasn't worth putting the money in. So I do think it's unfortunate that there are so many women who are cut from this round. Like they're already struggling with their women's roster spread across 3 brands, 4 if you count NXT UK, which I guess we could for the purpose of this discussion. But they have so many shows and like almost no women left. It's just really weird to me. It really twists the knife into whatever, you know, lip service they were doing with the women's revolution a few years ago. Also, I'm not trying to say anything salacious or anything, you know, accusatory. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but it is an unfortunate trend that you not only have a lot of women cut in this round, you also have a lot of people of color. I'm just saying, just an observation. I'm not saying anything. I want to make that very clear. Oh, God dang it. Where's the super chat thing bouncing around? Because we got a bunch of them I just didn't want to miss. We got one from Arbol Maldonado. Thank you, Arbol. And we get Drew Lytle. If Keith Lee does not go to AEW, I'm calling him as Impact, ROH, or some other company's world champion within a year or two. Drew, we'll talk about that in a minute. Sean Jones, does vaccination status or age come into play with these recent releases? Well, you know, that was the rumor. Like I said, the vaccination status seems to be. I've not heard anything about age, but I think I might have seen Denise Salcido point out that like a lot of the women who were cut were also kind of like getting up there, which is unfortunate. I mean, yeah, wrestling has always been very ageist with its women, and only recently are we beginning to see like a light at the end of the tunnel for female wrestlers, like life after 30, you know. We've seen outliers, sure, but like Mickie James was a big forerunner, and that obviously is an in-ring worker for as long as she's been. But I think Maria Kanellis-Bennett really started the recent trend, like I mentioned this on my podcast, really started the recent trend of like female veterans in positions of like executive authority. Like Maria Kanellis is like one of the bookers of the women's division of ROH. So it's not her being part of the board of directors or whatever. It's not an act. She actually has admin power. And then you got Gail Kim in Impact. You've got AJ Lee or AJ Mendez in Women of Wrestling. And you've got Mickie James at the NWA. And I think it's great that there's these avenues that female wrestlers can take when like maybe if they are deemed too old to wrestle or whatever, like there's work for them and beyond, where they can still use their talent and their experience and their skills. And they're all very skilled. B-Man the Champ, a member of the Rock's family, got released. Has hell frozen over? Not happy about it, just surprised. That is, yeah, it happens. It's very rare statistically. I mean, Rikishi was released once or twice. Jeremy Miller, I can see a lot more people asking for their releases. It feels like Vince took away the love for the sport and is only focused on the business side. Yeah, like I said, I mean, don't be surprised if more than a few of these come out as to people asking for their release, because we've been hearing it. It's been kind of a slow drip, and then it becomes even more so in the last several years. People talk, like, CM Punk's famous interview many years ago, and John Moxley's interview and his book, and so many other wrestlers who've come out after leaving WWE and talking about how like their spirit or their love for wrestling had died. Bryan Danielson, another name like that. And just, a lack of creativity, a lack of autonomy, a lack of freedom. And so that could, start a trend. Absolutely. I agree. Yeah, and like it is bad for backstage morale when that stuff happens. Elias Rodriguez saying Nia Jax to Impact. Could be interesting. I'd love to see Jordan Grace just pick her up in a fireman's carry and just like toss her around. Maybe do like a game of catch with her and Rachel Ellering. I don't know. Who else do we got? Austin Santiago, who's going to be in 2K22 at this point. I've been seeing the memes. I've been loving what I've been seeing, like the developers like getting all pissed because everyone's gone. Yeah, whatever. They'll just recycle the same like 20 legends and that'll make up half the roster, I guess. Hang on. Hang on. I thought I saw some comment. The As kicking Alaskan, please keep the beard and shave your head. No. No, I like my hair a lot more than my beard, thank you. It's funny, the beard poll is still active right now, so you can go check that video out if you can. And so the beard is up for, the future of the beard is in question. I gotta say right now, it's kind of a dead heat between the Hardy and the Bagwell. I'm not going to tell you which one I'd rather you pick for me, but just vote with your conscience, vote with your heart. Also hope you guys are voting for the causes they each represent as well. So that's also very important because that will determine the percentage of which the money I'm going to be distributing will go. But thank you. I'm not shaving my head. Not for all the money. Not for all the charity money. I'm not doing it. What just happened? Here we go. Carlos had a question. How does the indie scene look now once these non-competes expire? Can the indie scene support all these released wrestlers? I was thinking about just that thing this past week because I wonder about like how many independent leagues or promotions, how many of them can like spend the extra money to bring in talent, like former WWE or Ring of Honor talent, and or MLW talent, because I know they've cut some people as well this week. How many of them can afford those talent and also stay financially solvent themselves? How many of them can turn a profit off these names? How many spots are available for these recently released wrestlers if they don't find a contract anywhere soon? And if they do want to try and hustle and work the indies, like how many dates can they get and for the rate that they want? And is it sustainable? I mean, it's a lot of questions. I think that this year's releases are really gonna I think change. It's gonna really determine, I think, the direction of independent wrestling for years to come, based on what happens here. That's my theory, at least. Don't you forget about Keith. Don't. I remember doing that music video for Cultaholic, and they said, "Oh yeah, we'll put music underneath it." And then they didn't. So like my part was a cappella for some reason. Like, why am I the only one who doesn't have any music or a beat? Dan the Enigma, where would you like to see Keith Lee end up? I love her AEW, but my chat last night was saying New Japan, whole modern day Vader. Yeah. Historically, I think it's very difficult for black guys to succeed in Japan. There are a couple of outliers, but they're very rare. So yeah, it'd be cool, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I think, but like I said earlier in this stream, I think AEW would be a good place for him. If they could take one person from this, I would say it was Keith Lee. But let's see here. It's Drew Lytle's back. Do you think with all these wrestlers available could be the birth of a new company? I don't know, because like I said, they've released like 70 people or so this year, WWE alone. Like that's enough to make your own new company just from that alone. If you had some other billionaire to just like suddenly pool together, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, people like Tony Khan don't come around every day. So we'll have to see. It's what the market will allow, what the market will bear. So it's, who really knows for sure? Was Viscera in Japan? Interesting. Ethan Cobb. You alluded to it earlier. Do we have any new info on ROH? Thank you, Ethan. I will tell you, nobody knows anything more than we knew last week. We know that, wrestlers' contracts are expiring. We're told that Supercard of Honor is happening. Like, it's going to happen. Okay. Like, I like the optimism. It was very interesting being part of the tapings this week because we really ran the gamut of emotions. We ran the gamut of optimism and pessimism about people's respective futures, the future of ROH. Like, the general vibe that I think most people kind of agreed on would be that ROH is still going to be around. It's just not going to be, the same as it was. And it's, it's, excuse me. Hang on. Let me just take care of one guy. We're losing that dude. Anyway. So ROH will be back. It's just not going to be, the same as it once was. And who knows, like, I think there's no contracts to be given, or I don't think so. I think it's all going to be kind of based on availability. So who knows who's going to be left and who will remain unsigned by Supercard. But I mean, it was a really emotional week for a lot of people because for many people it was the last match they're going to have at ROH because not everyone's booked for Final Battle. So Final Battle is a certainty, and I will see you at Final Battle. I had to make sure that I asked, will I be part of Final Battle next month? And they said yes. Okay, cool, great. So I will be there on December 11th in Baltimore. Hope to see some of y'all there. And I hope we make Final Battle. If it is the Final Battle, then we need to go out with a bang and just burn that place to the ground in the best possible way. So it was just, very emotional. And some people, I saw plenty of grown men crying after matches and just during the show, just like being really overcome with emotion. Because like I said, it's for a lot of people, it's their last opportunity for something like this. It's, it means a lot to a lot of people. Like I said last week, what is that? I'm the wrong person. I don't know. It is disappointing because there's a lot of like, a lot of discussion about what could have been done differently, to make things better. And it's hard to see these wrestlers kind of witness it happening and knowing that a lot of it, it's not their fault. Like the wrestlers are kind of at the whim of like Sinclair and their choice ultimately to make these changes. The thing is, one thing somebody told me was if Sinclair wanted to get rid of ROH, they would have done it, and they still might. But as of right now, they've been told that it's still around. So Sinclair is still going to own Ring of Honor. It's just the structure is going to change. Let me kind of catch up with a couple of these. Bezo Banks. I want Keith's debut by pouncing Adam Cole off screen like an NXT. Yeah, or have him kind of raise up from beneath the shot like he did a Finn Balor that one time. Big E says, rest in peace, WWE. Like a lot of companies seemingly are in these stages where it's like, who knows what's going to happen in the future. Carlos says, I hope you continue doing wrestling videos or get to stay involved in wrestling. Big fan and appreciate everything you do to contribute to the biz. I appreciate that, Carlos. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'll be part of Final Battle and I'm part of TV through the end of the year. Who knows where I'll fit in to the rebranding, and there will be stuff. There are some announcements coming down the pike of some appearances I will be making at the beginning of this year, beginning of next year. So I will still be involved. I'll still be influencing and doing it for the content. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of cool stuff happening coming down the pike. Let's see here. Oni Lorcan was Biff Busick. Yes. And he will be again very soon. Let's see here. What can we talk about now? I guess I'm trying to think some more ROH stuff to discuss. It was nice. I think people were just really cool and just like very appreciative of each other. That's something I think was very nice. Was people were, what was it? The other night, it was a big dinner, big get together at a restaurant nearby, and we were all saying our goodbyes. And a lot of us, like when I was saying goodbye to people, a lot of them were saying like, thank you. And I would say thank you back. And like, not for a particular reason, just like, thank you for everything. Thank you for, working together. And sometimes not for a singular reason, just because like we just really appreciated and respected each other. And we're just, we're all very glad that we could share this experience together. And so to be part of Ring of Honor's rich 19 and a half year history, it's really something that I'm very proud of, and I hope I get to continue to be a part of it. But the limited time that I've been there for the last like 2 years or so, I've been some of the most amazing moments in my career, and I'm really hopeful that wherever I go, that I can continue to ride that high, that emotional and professional high, and being able to just kind of continue to expand and do other things that I never thought possible in my career, for sure. The Willmeister, is that a Mantar shirt? Those exist. Also, you keep talking about other wrestlers and personalities, but where's your headspace between ROH and now this? Yes, this was gifted to me. I got this from a mailbox opening a few months ago. I forget who sent it, but it's on there. There's a name attached, so you'll see who it was from. But again, thank you for that. But yeah, like I said, like it really sucks to see like so many of my colleagues, going through this. Many of whom I've never met, like all the WWE people. Like I don't know them on a personal level or anything like that. But like all these ROH people are the folks I've worked with and have grown and learned so much from in the last 2 years. And like I posted on Twitter the other day, just being part of that amazing crew, this really positive locker room that really works to help each other. The promo room was my favorite place to be because you always had different people coming in and out. And like Zane, our producer, he was a great director and a great kind of producer of like creative direction for things. He and a few other wrestlers who'd go in there and also help give their advice and their kind of suggestions about things. Like Maria was a big help to me as an interviewer. So is Dalton Castle. Jay Lethal was very helpful with that as well. There's just been so many great people who've helped me over the last couple of years. And of course, Inra Kabani and Caprice Coleman, Quinn McKay, an amazing crew of people I've been fortunate enough to work with very closely. And the wrestlers, of course, putting in their all and like watching the tapings. I was watching a lot of what was going on the monitors in the back, and so much of that mutual respect. A lot of people watching the shows like from the gorilla position or what have you, or in the catering where the big monitor was. Everyone worked so hard to make this last batch of tapings some of the best wrestling you'll see for the rest of the year. So I encourage everyone to watch Ring of Honor for the next several weeks, going into Final Battle, going into the end of the year. We filmed television that will go until end of December. So go check that out. And it's there's Honor for All coming on November 14th, which is going to be an Honor Club exclusive. And that's some tremendous stuff. So check that out. And of course, tickets for Final Battle just made available today. So yeah, I'm going to be hardcore ROH shill like for the rest until the wheels fall off, man, at this point, because I'm letting everyone know like what's going on, that we are, ROH, the great men and women of ROH really worked their ass off this week. They're going to do it again at Final Battle. So I hope that you guys and gals can support that as well. Or what's Z-Man doing in the Impact Zone? That is also a possibility. Thank you, Russell Wilson. Zachary Solano. WWE cutting talents like they're preparing a steak. I know it sucks whenever someone gets released. They're cutting talent like they're preparing a steak. Like trimming the fat off a steak? Because you can do that. I'm trying to see if maybe there's a follow-up text down there that might be like correction. But I don't know. Let's see here. Emmanuel Guzman. Thank you for hours of entertainment with these great videos. Thank you. I appreciate that, Emmanuel. Let's see here. Ethan Cobb. If a company, say the House of Mouse, was to buy WWE, could we see a lot of these guys re-signed or signed for the first time? I mean, up until recently, Sinclair was a very financially solvent company, and they could hypothetically afford a lot of people. But just because they can doesn't mean they do or would. So that was, if Disney bought WWE, who knows? But that's a very interesting thing to think about. I think that would make Zelina Vega a Disney princess. Taker Man releasing with regret. Yes. RWW. But I appreciate the sentiment and the super chat. Thank you, Takerman. Trakes. At this point, I feel like WWE's endgame is selling the company. I hope everything works out with ROH. Much love to you, Mr. Zane. Get well soon. Thank you. I am still kind of suffering a little bit of sniffles from this cold I had 2 weeks ago. It never really went away. What channel is ROH on? ROH, check your local listings. Go to rohwrestling.com and type in your zip code. It'll tell you where it'll air. If you've got Sinclair programming in your market, then you've got ROH. It's also, I believe, the episodes do show up on rohwrestling.com, and a lot of the highlights are on YouTube and everything. Let's see here. Somebody asked, what was it? Call Jay Biggs. We make it a little this week in regret. I couldn't get a hold of it. I think Biggs is busy on Fridays. That's part of our scheduling and stuff. And he's moved. He moved to Yarrington, which is about an hour away. So it's not like he can come, short notice anymore. But we still make it work. Somebody asked, what if AEW bought ROH? I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? But I think one thing the Khan family has enough of right now is wrestlers under contract. But but maybe they are selling. I don't know. I'm really curious. That seems to be the prevailing theory now with all these cuts. But I think they were just bound to happen because it's some of these wrestlers, I haven't even finished getting through all these names yet. I don't know much about Jeet Rama, so I didn't have much to say about him. I apologize. He's the one person I didn't really talk about. I don't know. Some of these do make sense, but some of them just really don't. Especially because of how recently they were on TV or how recently they had been signed. It just seems like you don't even give these people a chance. And then with some people like Keith Lee and Karrion and Kross, you strip away everything that made them cool and interesting and different, or you made them not be themselves, if that was what made them cool and interesting and different. And so now it's what do you have? Well, gosh, you can't get over. What's the matter with you? We gave you this shit and you can't make it work. So bye. It just sucks. All these releases suck for whatever reason, whether it's WWE doing all these budget cuts and whether it's for Sinclair, ROH doing the same thing, or MLW. It's really unfortunate. I think WWE is in the least position where they have to do it. I think that's what makes it so maddening for so many people. They're within their rights to do it because they're a business and whatnot, and they want to show they can cut their budget and save money and keep making money. Fine, capitalism, but then you've got just all this collateral, all these people who are now without jobs, and it's all because they're a line item to you. It's so dehumanizing, and I think that's what so many people are feeling right now. It's why we're in the midst of the Great Resignation and why so many people elsewhere in America are just quitting their jobs because they're tired of being seen as less than human by their workplace. So I do hope that some of these were requested releases. I do hope that some of these people decided to kind of maybe bet on themselves and take a chance on themselves. David Bixenspan made a good point where if you waive your severance for those 90 days or 30 days or whatever, then that would it should at least, if you're given the option to waive severance, that would free up the no compete and you can go right back into it. That's a great idea. That should be something that should be an option. Kevin Siegel, imagine having Keith Lee on your roster, not having a clue how to get him over. My thoughts exactly. I said that earlier in this thing. You could see he has the charisma, and then when you watch him when you watched him in action, like I said, Survivor Series and Royal Rumble, why wouldn't you try and put more work into making him a big deal? Excuse me. Ryan Bonds, thanks for always covering wrestling with an unbiased eye. Have been a subscriber for years and will continue to be. Well, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. I try to be unbiased. I really do. Like, I don't think people quite understand the people who say that I'm an AEW shill, or sometimes they'll say I'm a WWE shill, which is really weird because I don't know. If you say something nice about somebody, you're a shill, I guess, and you want Papa Tony Khan to pay you. I don't know. Where are all these people who get paid by AEW? Huh? Where's my fucking AEW check? God, like, for all the shilling I apparently do, you'd think I'd be getting paid right now. I have not seen one check from the Khan family. But I do try to be unbiased. Thank you, Ryan. Seth Levy, $5. Thank you very much. And we lose that. Just a second. A little sippy break. Yeah. No, like WWE, they're within their rights to cut budget, and you can cut your budget just because, and not because, oh my gosh, we're like in the red and we need to save money. That's not always what budget cuts mean. It just means they want to spend less money. But it just sucks that they have all these people. It's just like, again, we say this every time there's a wave of releases. This is just the side effect or the consequence of what they did 2 years ago by scooping up all this talent they possibly could, just to stifle AEW and stifle their hiring pool, and to, like, maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously, subvert the independent movement in America and the UK. It's really unfortunate that that's the strategy they had, and now all these people are suffering, but it's not even people they held on to forever. It's like people they've had for less than a year. Like, they released Taylor Rust after they just signed him, and he was part of the Diamond Mine. Like, what the fuck? I didn't even ask him. I talked with him all the time at the tapings this week. I didn't even ask what the fuck happened. And like, why weren't you supposed to be part of the Diamond Mine with Malcolm Bivens? So Crash Rahi Heat, love you and your content. Do you think we're starting to see more long-term effects of the pandemic now as it pertains to wrestling? ROH. Well, yeah, absolutely. Like, here's the thing. ROH is suffering now because it did the right thing then. While WWE was cutting wrestlers in the first few weeks of the pandemic, seeming very insensitive, ROH made it very clear they wanted to keep everyone signed. They wanted to keep everyone paid. They wanted to make everyone feel secure in those uncertain times. And so they stuck to their guns with that, and their tapings were ludicrously, let me say that again, they were ludicrously expensive because you were flying in talent, you were keeping them in their own separate hotel rooms, you weren't doing roommate situations like they're actually, like it was pre-pandemic for many of the wrestlers. So the hotel expenses got more, you had to pay for testing, you had to pay for all the staff and of course the rental costs and everything. You still have to pay the crew, and you're not getting ticket sales, you're not getting merch sales, there's no income, so it's all just like spend. So but ROH, Joe Koff, stuck to his guns, and he really wanted to make sure that the wrestlers were paid for and everything and taken care of. And now it's getting us on the back end because they could have cut a lot more people at the beginning and maybe not have the same problem. But, it's just a shame that ROH is kind of doing, they did things the right way. I think that was what people said for a long time about ROH's practices this past year. And I agree. They did do the right thing. Unfortunately, it seems to have cost ROH its current identity. And that's a real damn shame. But you know what? If you're not making money and owned by a corporation, you're beholden to them. So I get why Sinclair made that call as well. Thakur, love from India. You rock. Thank you, man. Yankee the Wolf. You're Yankee now, by the way. I would love to see Ciampa in AEW. He and Lance Archer could team up or feud with each other because the topics of their entrance are eerily similar. Yeah, well, when everybody dies, no one will survive. And in reverse, I suppose. Thanks, Yonky. Doobie Pill. I'm sorry. What is that? What is that denomination of currency? That looks different. Shekels. I didn't know shekels were still a thing. All the love, Brian. You're awesome in everything you do on ROH TV and this channel. Really appreciate you. Please accept my humble shekels. I appreciate that. Is that actually the unit for shekels? The little squiggly thing? That's kind of cool. Rolo 555 asks if I think Meltzer and Alvarez are paid by AEW. No. This whole line of thinking that like the journalists are being paid off by other companies, like, don't you think it would have come out at some point that like journalists were getting paid by like WWE, for example, like especially maybe in the mid 90s when they were like really shit in the bed, and then like WCW came, was kicking their asses. Like, don't you think more people would have like stood up for WWE back then, or more journalists would have stepped forward and tried to spin a lot more positive cases about them? You know, I don't know. It seems very silly to me that it's like, oh, you like these things, that must mean they pay you. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, if a fan watches AEW, are they also getting paid? Is that how it works? Do they get paid by the tweet? Or you get 2 cents every time you use the AEW hashtag. Go to it, you know. Fuck stick 420. I don't know. It's the idea that like any positive press is because it's paid for or it's transactional, I think is ludicrous. I think maybe it helps with access. Like, for example, Tony Khan showing up being interviewed by Dave Meltzer, that may have something to do or not to do with the fact that, you know, like Meltzer doesn't always praise AEW. That's important to know. Like, there's things that AEW does poorly that most people call him out on. But I don't know. I don't know about that, but I will say no. Meltzer and Alvarez, I will take that to my grave. They are not paid by AEW. I will die on that hill, folks. Let's see here. Scrolling along. Jed Lockett Productions. Thanks for the great content and inspiration. Thank you, Jed. Thank you for the very specific super chat of $2.52. Jason Robbins. So when do you think Peacock will take full ownership of WWE? So what you're asking is, will NBC Universal or Comcast, whatever they're called now, NBC, Comcast, Universal, Walmart, will take full ownership of WWE? Maybe. I mean, that's a possibility too. I mean, NBC Universal and or General Electric, I guess, and WWE have worked together so much over the years. It seems like kind of something to be kind of hand in hand. This is an interesting question that I do think we should address. I wonder if there'll be the same outrage when AEW starts cutting people. Here's the thing. They haven't yet, and I think when they do, then we can have that discussion. But right now, it's WWE that's doing all this, not AEW. So that's something I want to make very clear. Here we go. John Rogers. Brian, you're my favorite wrestling shill, no matter the company. Thank you. At the end of the day, I'm a sucker for wrestling. I'm a shill for wrestling, and I'll try and shill all that as much as I possibly can. Here we go. Let's go. Fuckstick 420. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was fuckstick _ 420. That was the dude's name. That's the paid guy. The guy gets paid by Tony Khan. Mark Smith. Do you think The Rock should finally do as he threatened years ago and start up the own Rock Wrestling Federation? Yes, absolutely. Things should go full circle, and The Rock should start the Rock Wrestling Federation with all the wrestlers that walked out. Caw 203 Kevin Cat says, thanks for all the content over the years. You're welcome. Man, this has been quite the stream, folks. It's been a lot to talk about. Just to wrap this up and to end how we began, talking about the releases, I'll go through all the names again. You got Eva Marie, Keith Lee, Mia Yim, Karrion Kross, Scarlett Bordeaux, Ember Moon, Frankie Monet, Harry Smith, Nia Jax, Lindsay Dorado, Grand Metalik, Jeet Rama, Katrina Cortez, Trey Baxter, Cora Jade, Zayda Ramirez, Jesse Kamea, B-Fab, and Oni Lorcan, all getting cut. They've all been in different positions in the company or lengths with the company, some as recently as less than half a year. And it just really sucks that all these things happen, right before Christmas. Some of these folks are couples, or they have relations in WWE. It's pointless to speculate where anyone's going to go because who really knows what's available and who's calling and who's answering. Same thing with ROH as well. But like I said, they've gutted their women's division. They've they've just really proven that like the old NXT is totally dead. They've totally killed not all of it. Obviously, there's still a few people there like Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura, Robert Roode. Those folks are still around. So the old NXT is not totally dead. But it's really sad that it's definitely like they're culling the herd here, and who knows what it means for WWE's future. I'm far more concerned about the wrestlers' future than anything else. I think many of them will be fine. Most of them will be fine. They'll be able to fall back on something. And, I'm not saying Cora Jade did get cut. I'm saying they were couples or they were in relations. So that's why it's like Keith Lee and Mia Yim or Karrion, Kross, and Scarlett. Two couples who, in their own way, could still have, do great and draw lots of money, and they decide no, we're not going to do that. So yeah, it's really sad, but like that, and with the ROH stuff, I'm really optimistic for wrestlers to recover. I hope that like the indie market isn't too oversaturated with this rush of released talent across companies. I just hope that people, the ROH wrestlers especially, have some time to kind of like, they're going to get paid to the end of the year or to March, depending on how long their contract or when it was signed. So, I hope they have time to find something and fall back on. And I believe that everyone's going to be okay. But I will make one more passionate plea for you guys to watch Ring of Honor Wrestling for the next several weeks on TV on your local Sinclair affiliates. Be sure to watch Final Battle and be sure to get tickets for Final Battle because those tickets just went on sale to the general public today. And let me read the last few super chats before I bounce out of here because I need to have lunch and get ready for my counseling appointment. Mental health is important, guys. Kevin Siegel says there won't be outrage in AEW cuts because there won't be any. Every singles match has 30 other wrestlers at ringside and 250 factions. Yes, they certainly make use of the people they have there. The factions, I love the factions. The legit underboss. I don't want to call for jobs, but I don't buy the budget cuts as NXT UK as a brand can't be making a profit. That is also true. I find it very interesting that NXT 2.0 has changed, but NXT UK is still largely the same as it was. Who knows what that's going to do. But no, ROH is not officially done. We have TV through the end of the year. We have Final Battle on December 11th. We have Super Card of Honor scheduled for a date in April. And that's all we know. I'm telling you everything that we know, which is not much about the future. But I am hopeful. I'm hopeful for my career and for the careers of so many of my colleagues at ROH and so many of the other folks in the wrestling brethren, the brotherhood and the sisterhood in WWE and MLW. I hope that that we all bounce back, and I hope that everyone can continue to find work and make money in this crazy business of professional wrestling. And I hope that the fans can help support those folks best they can. Go check out your local independent wrestling folks and just try and help out those businesses. And that's all I'm going to try. That's how I'm going to wrap this one up, folks. I'm going to leave you on that note of optimism and positivity that wrestling is not dead. These wrestlers' careers are not over. Wrestling will survive. WWE may get sold off. Who knows? And that, honestly, I really don't care what happens with the sales status of this multi-million-dollar company. But support wrestlers however you can in these trying times. It's been a crazy week for wrestlers, but I think that we're all going to do fine. But that's my last note, folks. Check out video this week is going to be, it's already happened. We had Rebellion this week. Next week, it's going to be a countdown about the worst Undertaker moments. So stay tuned for that. That's what we got going next. And then later tonight, we have the SmackDown review. So do keep your eyes open for that. But until then, folks, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.